let's start out with some good stuff. You've been held in sequester, you can't talk to anyone, and now it's the first day you're standing on the beach. Jeff is welcoming you guys. What is that moment like?
Man, it's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. A dream come true moment, and it all felt ethereal. Like it wasn't even real. Seriously. And it's hard to be present in a moment like that. You take it for granted until it's all gone. So I'll never forget it. It was a feeling that I'd love to experience again. And yeah, there's nothing like it. Seriously.
Well, you quickly are thrown into the sweat challenge. First, what was it that made you even like willing to do it? It's kind of a high pressure position.
Yeah, definitely high pressure, and I found myself in a lot of those for some reason. I guess, the more risks you take, the more rewards and the more consequences you'll be dealt. So I want to be that guy who experiences the rewards, and I want to be that guy who helps out the tribe however possible. So that's kind of how I chose myself to be in the sweat task. I when we started, like, this is obviously something I wanted to do. And I kind of wanted to make amends after that first puzzle because I didn't feel like it was my fault, but I did have a hand in that. So obviously you want to try to clean your burdens.
Mm-hmm. Was there any rule or mention of like maybe being able to plug up those holes? Did it
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, we asked. There was nothing that we could do. And
Oh,
those
really?
Yeah, those jugs were or those barrels were designed to be difficult. I mean, and
Yeah.
I'm a big guy. I have big hands, and the way that barrel was designed, you couldn't close every single hole. There was going to be
Mm.
one hole open at all times, and that's what made it super difficult.
And frustrating. Oh my gosh.
It was frustrating, yeah, and like more so than anything, I was walking up and down the beach in the sand and the coral barefoot, and
Mm.
I didn't realize how big of a problem that was going to be until way later. Like as we were going, I couldn't even stand like an hour and a half in. My feet were super torn up. I couldn't wear shoes for a month after the show was over. Yeah, my feet were so scarred and infected from that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was the conversation like with Q when you're like, okay, I this is gonna take too long. I'm not doing this.
So the conversation with Q was Q had presented the idea to quit the sweat task before I had even thought of it. And Q and I bonded over having Memphis roots. My
Hmm.
family's from Memphis, Tennessee, and he lives in Memphis. And Memphis mentality is grit and grind. So quitting is not an option. So when Q suggested to quit the sweat task, I'm like, man, let's do it. Like we both were struggling. Like I knew I was struggling, and Q and I had the same amount of water in our jugs. So I knew if I
Hmm.
was struggling, he must have been too. And yeah, I was like, let's conserve our energy for the immunity challenge and get our flint, pot, and machete then.
Right. So let's go to the journey. This is a new game we haven't seen. It's kind of fun, but a
Yeah,
little tricky. Talk
for
me
sure.
through the like starting to lie and then like I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah, so I was definitely lying for a little bit longer than what was shown.
Sure.
In fact, the first question Maria asked us was, what color was the pen on the voting parchment card? I knew what the color was. I knew it was blue. So I had shared that with her, and Tevin didn't know what the color was. So at the beginning of it, Maria thought it was me. Like Maria thought that I had the voting parchment card. And as we just kept going, like Tevin just has such this large personality. And that's when I started to realize, like, okay, like I can keep lying my ass off for an extra vote. But if I do that, I'm gonna go back to camp with one extra vote and 12 enemies. When I could just go back to camp with two allies and no vote. And I was already in an alliance of four. So I thought it was an easy evaluation. I
Mhm.
didn't have to keep lying. And that was kind of my perspective on that.
So back at camp, what were the tribe dynamics? You really were working with Kenzie, Tiffany, and Q, like that was a good alliance.
It was a good alliance, and I have nobody to blame for that falling out but myself. Um, they wanted to work with me, and I wanted to work with them, but I acted so independently out there, and Survivor is not a this is your game, and whatever you do is going to work out, and however you do it's going to make you win. There's a lot of other people in this damn game, and they all want to win too. So when you start acting independently, that puts a huge target on your back. So tribe dynamics were good. We
Mhm.
all got along, and I specifically got along with Jess and Banu too. But it was natural for us four to click up.
Did you feel like you had a working relationship with Banu and Jess as well?
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. Jess, I did not have a working
Mhm.
relationship with.
Mhm.
And I tried, like Jess and I had a conversation. I was like, Jess, what do you look for in an ally? And she was like, well, someone I could bounce ideas off of. And I was like, well, let's try to work together. Like, let's do something. And she was like, you need to change your image. And I was like, what? I was like, what does that mean? I was like, she's like, you need to go help around camp some more. And I
Oh.
was like, whoa, like that's just crazy. But Banu and I had a great relationship out there.
All right, so going to tribal, you're feeling good, right? Like, did you ever become concerned?
I was a little concerned. I knew like deep down in my heart, like if they were smart, they would get me out tonight because I'm just acting a fool out here doing whatever I want. And that, come on, that's not how Survivor goes. But so there was a thought in my mind that it could be me, but I was certain it was Jess. So
Mm.
I was blindsided. The vote was not a blindside, but I was blindsided.
Right. So even though they were talking like that you were a potential vote, you felt like the relationships is what were going to save you. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. And
Mhm.
just because it was natural, but I mean, sometimes in Survivor, like it doesn't matter who you have a natural relationship with if you're acting a fool. And that's exactly what I was doing out there. So I was bound to be voted out.
And was Jess really that kind of out of it, or was that extra for the edit?
Jess was out of it. I
Hmm.
mean, she couldn't even formulate a sentence at camp.
Hmm.
It was, and I mean, I was aware that they were telling her like, uh, so I was aware the vote was going to be me. Like that was the plan to tell everybody too. But I was not aware of that it was actually going to be me. So
Right.
like they would tell Jess the plan. She's just like, okay. So that was
Hmm.
real, and it's hard out there. I feel for her.
Right. Now, rules wise, would you have had the opportunity to play your shot in the dark, even though you didn't have a vote? Do you need a vote to play that?
You need a vote to play it. So I
Mm,
couldn't play the shot in the dark.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, you were surprised and bummed to go out, I'm sure, but what was this experience like for you?
It was incredible. And that's the perspective I need to maintain because I remember what it's like being on the other end, applying for years, not hearing anything back, thinking that the casting producers are a myth, thinking the teams are a myth. But nah, this is the real deal. They know what they're looking for, they know what they're doing, and I'm truly so blessed and grateful to be a part of something like this. And I'll never take that for granted.
That's so good to hear. How many times did you apply?
I've applied 3 times.
Awesome.
Mhm.
So that's good for everyone to hear. Like, keep applying. It can eventually happen.
Keep applying. You never know what happens, man. You don't know when it's your year.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. It was very nice meeting you.